Alrighty, so this is a different video. It's from a Versus Series playlist. So this is a how-to guide on to make an effective Versus crossover. So if you are into doing Versus matches and want them to be realistic and good and really, intricate and deep, um, here's how to really do that. So you have a Christ, there's probably millions, and I mean millions of characters that are established and made. For every one of those characters, there are multiple versions of said character. Examples, like Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. You get the point. Spawn, that kind of shit. So when you go through them, plus you have anime as well. And this is for all fandoms. Every fandom has a ton of characters and choices and shit. When you do a versus match, and this is inspired by Who Would Win on Twitter and the Racial Draft podcast as well. The versus matches they pick are really good, but they always go for like a neutral area with fighting, all their abilities, but in a neutral zone. That's cool. That's fun. But if you want to be analytical about it and really break it down, here are some tips. One, if it's a crossover between two different people or whatever, if it's Transformers versus something in anime, or it's Marvel versus something in Sequest DSV or some shit. You got to factor in body composition, obviously, because you're talking about human biology changing, going into a whole nother universe. If there's weapons involved, you have to break down. That's one. You have to break down the metal and figure out, which metal's going to be safe going into a crossover, or if it's going to become brittle or break apart. If they have powers, this is a big one. If they have multiple sets of powers, you need to go through the list of their powers and figure out which ones would be weakened and which ones would be strengthened. Especially for someone like Superman. Like, he is the perfect blueprint for a crossover, because there's many iterations of him, like I mentioned before. And two, his powers are always changing, so he always gains something new. But, if you take all of his powers and shit and then throw him into Magic the Gathering's universe. This is just, an example thing. First, you got to figure out how long he would last there, because most of that realm is just magic. But would the magic affect him badly, or would it benefit him? Would his powers wane, or would they dissipate? Or would he gain a whole new strength out of that? Like his heat vision, would that, be increased or decreased? Would his freezing breath actually kill him using it? Would his super strength that he has, because the last time he did his strength test, he was able to do quintillion. So would that be knocked down to, I don't know, the millions? Or would it be cut in half or drastically diminished? Would he be able to fly? Would he even be able to fly? Much less would he even be able to walk or breathe in that universe, there's things that you got to really think about when it comes to a versus contest, because there are so many variables that go into it, and there's all these choices and consequences with it, and you have to really break it all down, and you got to think about it. And there's tons of resource books for this shit. If you're using DC character, if you're using comic book characters, there is the DC Anatomy of a Metahuman, which I've done a book review on. That is super helpful if you're doing a thing of Batman, because that's literally all done by Batman, which is nice. You have the DC and Marvel encyclopedias over the years. You have the visual dictionaries for those. If you're doing a Star Wars crossover with Trek or, you know, Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or whatever, um, there are visual dictionaries, there's character encyclopedias for all of that. And you can find them at your library easily. All you gotta do is just, type in whatever fandom and then encyclopedia or dictionary, and boom, you'll get something. Or if you don't want to rent it from your library and you just want to buy it right off the bat, then, go buy it off Amazon, eBay, or wherever. It's your choice. Um, like I said, there are tons and tons of fandoms. There's tons of shows. There's so many choices and characters. You could do Blue from Wolf's Rain versus Wolverine, or you could do Magneto versus a Johnny Goldmine from Magic the Gathering. It's always, you can always switch it up and change it up and all this, that, and the other. And, it's fun to do these versus matches because you got to factor in all the details for it. And you got to really look at it, if you're doing a faction deal, okay? Like you take, I guess, Cobra versus, I don't know, I just got done reading Gatewatch. So, Cobra versus Gatewatch. Okay, so you have powers versus military. So, and it's a crossover. So, what would happen? Would Cobra's vehicles and weapons be more effective against the Gatewatch? Or would the Gatewatch completely decimate them? Or would they die just trying to survive in the crossover event itself? You have to figure out, would Cobra Troopers human physiology survive a crossover event? Would their robot troopers make it through, or would they just break down and crumble because their metal composition didn't mesh well with the universe of Magic the Gathering? That kind of deal. There's all kinds of shit, and if you're doing animals and stuff and whatnot, if you're doing dragons and shit, there's tons of encyclopedias for dragons. Encyclopedias, dictionaries, tons of websites for all this shit. If you're lazy and you don't want to do any book reading, but you'll do a site read, Star Wars, Wikipedia, easily for Star Wars, and there is Memory Alpha for Star Trek. And of course, you have Marvel's website, DC's website. And if you don't know anything else, honestly, consult the comics. Consult comics, consult the books that you've read that are out. Even if you don't like reading, it still helps. What else is there? But yeah, like powers, physiology, weapons, all that gets taken into consideration as well. Because you can't just, have a versus match where, they have their full strength and, you think they would beat each other. Especially the whole debate with Superman versus Goku, Superman versus the Hulk, all that bullshit. Hell, take Thor. If Thor went into, say he went into Yu-Gi-Oh's universe, and the monsters all came to life and stuff, would he still have his godly powers? Would Mjolnir or Stormbreaker be enough, Would he still be able to summon the lightning? Would the lightning kill him trying to use it, Would he even be able to breathe? It's one of those things. You got to really think about it and really figure all this shit out because it's very detailed in how you do a versus match. But like I said, Superman is the blueprint for a crossover because one, all the powers he's got, many versions of him because everybody likes to do a version. It's like, oh, Superman will beat anybody. Which version? They're like, huh? Because some people don't read the comics; they just go by either Henry Cavill or Christopher Reeve or Brandon Roth or Dean Cain. They go through all the live action iterations and stuff. So, it's Gen Gap with that and then all the other fun shit. So, that's what I got. It's fun. I mean, even Hellboy, too. Like, if Hellboy crossed over to wherever, would he immediately transform into his, destructor form? I forget the damn name of it. Yeah, I don't remember the fucking name. Whatever. Would he immediately transform into the weapon of doom and just, annihilate that area or that universe? You know? Or would he be in full control of his powers by then? Never know. There's all kinds of variables that go into these matches, and you got to consider them. Because if you don't, well, oh well. Because that's the one thing comics tend to not really express and elaborate on is powers. They always just go like, "Ooh, look at the shiny shit." So yeah, and I know it's getting dark because the sun's going down, but yeah. So that is what I got for you. So I will be back maybe tomorrow, I guess. So, or maybe later than that. I don't know. I'll see how I feel. So, till next time, like and subscribe for thoughts and prayers.